Kathy Lawrence, a sewing advisor for Crafting Change. Today I've got the perfect walker or wheelchair tote to share with you. Not only does this have pockets on the front, it's got a pocket on the back, and it opens up so there's plenty of room for storage on the inside. And the hanging tabs are secured with Velcro so it can hang over the frame, and there's ties on the bottom to easily attach for stability. Now the fabrics that I would recommend for this project would be heavy cotton, twill, duck cloth, light to medium weight decorator fabrics, and lightweight upholstery material. You want the tote to be sturdy enough to hold up, but not too heavy or thick that you can't sew through the fabrics. We're going to be making this tote bag out of deco materials. Are you ready? Let's go have some fun. You'll need the following notions for this project: scissors, a little snipper, a point turner, some good quality polyester thread, and something to mark with. I like to use tailor's chalk. There's a sewing gauge, and don't forget your needles. If you're making just a regular bag, a 90/14 will work. If you're making one with denim accents, then switch on over to a jeans denim needle. At least a 90/14 and possibly a 100/16 depending on how thick your material is. You can cut out your pieces with your scissors, or if you have one, certainly you can use a rotary cutter. For this tote bag, you'll need two pieces, 18 inches wide by 14 inches high. That's for the outside. And for the lining, you'll also need two pieces, 18 wide by 14 inches high. For the front pocket, we're going to need a piece 18 by 18 that we fold in half and make into our front pocket. And for our back pocket, you'll want at least a piece that's 6 inches wide by 15 inches long. And that'll be just perfect enough to slide a little cell phone into. And the hanging tabs, you'll cut two pieces, 6 inches wide by 10 inches long. And to finish it, you'll need two strips of double fold bias tape that are 26 inches long, and a 6-inch piece of 3/4 inch wide sew-on hook and loop tape. Next, we're going to prep the hanging tabs, the front pocket, and the back pocket so they can go on our tote. Take one of the pieces of the hanging tabs, and on one end of it, press about a 1/4 inch up from the bottom. Then fold it in half, press again so we get a nice little crease, and then bring each one of these raw edges into the middle, and then fold again, just like you're making a big piece of extra wide double fold bias tape. Then go ahead and clip these, clip them shut, and you're going to take them to the sewing machine, and you're going to sew them down one end, across the other, and up the other side. You're going to leave this end alone, so you just want to make sure that end that you folded under has been secured. Okay, next we're going to work on the back pocket, and that was that piece that was 6 inches wide by 15 high. And so I just folded it over, right sides together, and stitched down one side, across the bottom, and up, leaving a space for turning. So I'm going to go to my workspace, cut off my corners, turn this right side out, and use some kind of a point turner or something so I can make those bottom edges a little bit crisper. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to press it and just top stitch it when I have the right sides turned out. And last, we've got the big pocket that goes across the front. This was the 18 by 18. And what I did with this is just fold it in half. So now I have a piece that's 18 by 9. And I just top stitched it across the top fold. And next thing I need to do is to decide if I want to have one sewn divider, so I have two places, or if I'm going to do three. And I kind of like the idea of having three. It works out pretty slick because if you've got a 6-inch wide ruler, all you need to do is just kind of line that up there, make your mark at 6, and the other 6. So you'll have a 6, 6, 6, and you'll have room for your water bottle or a notepad or whatever you want to do. So I'm marking the places that I'm going to be stitching this onto the bag. So once we have all of those done, I'll show you how they get incorporated into the tote. Now we're going to take one of the outsides of the bag, lay it out flat, and then take our pocket that we've stitched our top stitching on and lay that on top. We're going to line up the 2 sides and the bottom, and we're going to just pin those together. And when you're done pinning them, you're going to take this bag to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch this line and stitch this line. Remember, when you come up here, to come up and then back tack, because that is a stress point, and it'll have more wearability and longevity if you do take care of that. So just pin these things together and sew these 2 lines, and that's all we do on the front. Now take your other piece, which is the back of the outside, lay that out, and on here we're going to figure out where we want to put this back pocket. See, the pocket that I've turned and I poked my corners out and I've top stitched across the top. I don't want it too high, I don't want it too low. I'm going to put it about in the middle, and I'm going to see where my middle is by folding that in half. And so my middle is right here, and I'm going to eyeball this to where I want that to go. And then I'm going to pin that down, and I'll stitch that pocket onto the back. And here is where I turned it right side out. So make sure that you catch that when you sew your pocket shut. Now the straps, what you'll do here is you'll come into the top and you'll count in 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 inches. Put a pin. Count 3 inches. 1, 2, 3. Put a pin. And then you're going to put the tab, the right side of the tab, which is the pretty side, just to the inside of that pin, and maybe a little bit up. And then I'm going to pin that on, right side of the tab to the right side of the outside bag back. Again, all your tabs are going to have one side pretty, so that'll be the right side. Again, pinning the right side of the tab to the right side of the outside back. And now these front and back will be ready to go to the sewing machine. On the back, you're going to just baste across here, and then you're going to stitch your pocket down 1, 2, 3 sides. And on the front, we're going to stitch through to make the dividers. The last thing to prep that goes on your bag are the ties. Now take your bias tape, and what we're going to be doing is closing that by stitching that shut. But I want to show you a trick for getting some nice ends. Take your little scissors here and cut from the fold up to the point. So you got kind of like little bunny ears there. And when you go to sew this shut, just push these down and they'll come inside, and there'll be room for them so they won't be sticking out of the corners. So then I'm going to ahead clip that, and we'll be stitching across there all the way down. And I'll show you once more on the other end. Open it up and cut from the fold up to the corner. Then open it up again, just push down, fold it over. So for each of the ties, do that, sew across the end, and then sew it closed all the way down, and we'll have everything ready to go onto our bag. Okay, I've got my hanging tabs basted down at the top, my pocket sewn onto the back, and then my divider sewn onto the front. And while I was at the sewing machine, I went ahead and put right sides together and sewed these two pieces together along the bottom using about a 3/8 of an inch seam. So I've got something that looks like this right now, and the last thing to be added are these ties that we just got done. We will fold those in half and find that bottom crease, and then we're going to put that bottom crease right along the raw edge near that bottom seam, and we're going to pin that in place there so that can be sewn in while we're sewing up the sides. Just find that fold and put the fold along the raw edge down close to where you sewed the front to the back, and that gets secured by a pin or a clip. And then what you do with this piece then is you go ahead, put the right sides back together again, and then you're going to stitch each one of the side seams. Now for the lining, we're going to do about the same thing with the lining. We're going to put the right sides together of the lining, but with the lining, when we sew it together, we're going to leave a space of about 3 or 4 inches on one of the sides, and that's where we're going to turn everything. So I like to leave a space about big enough so I can get my hand in there. So for the lining, we're going to go from the top to here, not stitch this portion, but then stitch down to the bottom, stitch across, and then come up the other side, back tack at the beginning, back tack at the end. And you're going to leave this top portion open. Once you've got the side seam sewn on the outside of the tote, leave it with the wrong sides showing outward and just set it aside for a minute. On the lining, you stitch together the side, bottom side, and you left a spot open for turning. Now go ahead and give this a light press, because that'll just help that seam allowance stay nice and tucked in there for when we sew it shut later. But right now we're going to put the lining inside of the tote. Once again, right side of the lining showing, wrong side of the tote showing. So put your hand down in one of those corners of the lining and push that all the way down to the corner of the tote. And repeat for the other side. Get those corners down in there, then give it a good shake. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to clip the lining to the outside of the bag. We're going to pin or clip it all the way around the outside. Now, go to the sewing machine and sew the bag to the lining around the top. And when you come to where one of the hanging straps are, then you want to go across it, come back, and go across it again, because that's a stretch point and we need to reinforce that. All right, let's make some magic happen. Reach in and pull that lining out. So we're looking at the wrong sides of both the outside and the lining. Then find that hole that you left open for turning and get your hand in there and come all the way down and pull the tote bag out through that hole. You might have to fuss with it a little bit, but eventually it'll come. Pull on these little bottom tapes. That'll help to get that other tote squared away. So you're going to have something that looks like this. Okay, I'm looking at the right sides of the bag and of the lining, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do. Now what you're going to do next is this place that we left it open for turning. You're going to mark that so you know where to sew, and then go to your sewing machine and just edge stitch that close to the outside seam to sew it shut. So go ahead and sew it along here to close it up. You can also do it by hand if you want to, but since it's the lining and nobody's really going to see it, go ahead and do it by machine. And then I want you to take the lining and stuff it back down inside that bag where it belongs. And then straighten out this top, give it a little pressing, and then go ahead and top stitch around the top of this bag. Now my bag's nice and top stitched, and I'm ready to put the Velcro on. Now find your hook and loop, cut it into 3 2-inch pieces, and take one of those pieces, lay it on the inside of the tab here, clip it down, and to find the corresponding spot on the outside of the bag, take the other side and just center it right underneath where you top stitched. So this is going to be stitched here, and the corresponding is going to be stitched down there. That way that tab will match up right there when they go to put it over the handle of the walker. Now do this for both sides of the tabs, and then the last 2-inch piece of Velcro that you have, find the center of your bag, and on the inside put one piece just underneath the top stitching and the corresponding piece on the other side, and stitch those down. So after you've got the Velcro stitched down, we're just going to take it for a test run and see how it works. And here we are, the Crafting Change Walker Wheelchair Tote. It's a very versatile bag. We've got 3 pockets in the front. I'll put my cheaters in there, and then maybe a little pad of paper to take some notes or to write some letters. And in the end, of course, we all need a water bottle. And on the back side, there's room for me to put my phone, carry it with me. And don't forget that this opens up, and so I can put larger things inside. Maybe I want to have a magazine to read. That'll just slide right in there. And I can also put something like my tablet in there. So it's got a lot of versatility. It can be put over the wheelchair handles or over the walker bars, and then secured to the other side with the ties on the bottom. I want to thank you so much for sewing with me today. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you had fun. If you have time, please wander over to www.craftingchange.org and see what we're all about. Our craftivists love to sew, knit, and crochet to help those in need. Thanks, and take care.